as my marriage disintegrated and then crashed and fell apart, I started taking a pretty hard look at those systems. And as the house crumbled, I'm like, well, let's look at these bricks. Let's look at each of these bricks that built this house that I thought was sturdy, that I thought was going to last the test of time. And as I really examined it with a critical eye and with honesty and self awareness, you know, it turns out that it's not such a surprise that that house crumbled. These
Mm.
systems were built for men, and ultimately, they didn't serve either one of us.
What do you do when the life you've carefully built starts falling apart? That's exactly what my guest today had to figure out. Hi, everyone. I'm Giovanna. And if you're new here, welcome to the Well Woman Show. This is where we explore the intersection of systems change and personal growth so that women live with more ease, joy, resilience, and purpose. Today, I'm talking with Jen Hatmaker about her memoir, Awake. And this isn't your typical divorce story. It's a surgical examination of patriarchy, religious dogma, and invisible walls that limit women's lives. We talk about shame, healing, burnout, and what it really takes to rebuild your life on your own terms. I know you're going to take away so much from this episode, and so let's dive in to my interview with Jen Hatmaker. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you on the show. I really want to just start, Jen, with asking you, who are you in the world today?
Well, I am located in Austin, Texas. Texas is home. My kids were all raised here. This is their one and only home, this city. I've got 5 kids, and they are young adults. My youngest is 19. My oldest is 27, and he and his wife just gave me my first grandbaby on Friday. So
Oh, wow.
big, big month over here.
Congratulations.
Really. Thank you. And so, I'm a writer. I would say if I ever have to pick one of my things that I do, that's what I pick. That's my favorite work, my first love. Um, I'm a podcaster and I'm a speaker and I just get this like crazy life where somehow I get to host and sometimes lead a really large online community of women, and it's just a joy. It's work that I could have never envisioned in my whole life that I get to do, and I'm so grateful.
Interesting. So we'll dig into a lot of what you just said and shared. But I think for a lot of listeners of this show, women are in transition or they're in burnout or they're just dealing with all the different roles that we play and the hats that we wear as women, as professionals, as caregivers. And you said you could never have expected this life. And you talk a little bit about your life, obviously, in your memoir, which we can talk about in a bit. But Jen, what did you think your life was going to be? Like, how is this a surprise?
Well, first of all, I got married when I was 19, so I was a literal child. Um, so I had never really considered what I wanted out of life when I got married. I didn't even know. I wasn't even formed. So I largely attached what I was going to want for my life to whatever my husband's life was going to be, which was going to be ministry. We kind of came up through like an evangelical, like church space. And so I was well suited for the role of support spouse. And I was a teacher. I taught 4th grade, which was a very sanctioned career path in my subculture, and assumed that I would do that sort of as, I guess, a side gig. And I was going to support his work, which I did. In ministry, in full-time ministry, it's kind of a 2-for-1 approach. Like you pay the man, you get the wife for free. And
Mm.
she just is expected to volunteer all of her time and labor, which she does. And then thought I would probably have a bunch of babies and raise them. So some of that turned out to be true. I didn't know you could be a writer. I didn't know that was a real job. That seemed fake. That seemed like a fake job for people in movies and TV shows. And so, I didn't I wrote my first book when I was 29, and nobody was asking me to do that, by the way. It was sort of like hubris of the highest order. And and then, I built kind of a life around that trajectory and did not see that coming. I always when it became clear that I may be able to work as a writer, and it took me, by the way, 7 books before I became a career writer. That was just a side hustle that I was basically doing for free. Um, I had no idea that I would ever build this kind of capacity around that work, and I kinda have the internet to thank for that, and just I hit a moment in time where I was able to build a career outside of traditional structures, and now it has just given me a life that I'm so grateful for, basically every single day.
Okay. And as I said in the introduction, Jen Hatmaker is the author of several books, but the new book is Awake. It's a memoir. And Jen, I'm really particularly interested in this book because on the Well Woman show, we really dive into working within systems that we didn't build and that were not made for us. And my background is in public policy and systems change in that way. And I sort of say that I work at the intersection of systems change and personal growth and sort of where that how that happens. And what I loved about your memoir was that it really did address systems, right? It's not just your personal story, like this is what happened to me, but there were all these connections to the larger systems. Did you know that was what you were going to do with this book? And can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. I always knew that I was going to nestle my small personal story inside a much larger, ubiquitous story. Frankly, divorce is not that interesting. Like middle-aged male exit stage left, not that interesting, not creative, not innovative. Um, and so having built though a life inside systems that promised, frankly, a handful of guaranteed outcomes that I believed. I bought into that. You do these, best practices, these prescribed behaviors, then you get a happy life. That's what you get for this. And so as my marriage disintegrated and then crashed and fell apart, I started taking a pretty hard look at those systems. And as the house crumbled, I'm like, well, let's look at these bricks. Let's look at each of these bricks that built this house that I thought was sturdy, that I thought was going to last the test of time. And as I really examined it with a critical eye and with honesty and self-awareness, you know, it turns out that it's not such a surprise that that house crumbled. And so, these
Mm.
systems were built for men, and ultimately, they didn't serve either one of us.
What was that process like for you to, because a lot of people could have gone into, and maybe you did, and maybe it was a whole, like lots of layers probably, but a lot of women go into a shame spiral around systems that have broken down around them because they don't necessarily identify that it was the system and not them. What was that process for you? And did you come to realize that like immediately, or was it a longer journey?
I've taken aim at those systems for a decade or longer. So some of that critique is not new to me. I have sort of been a burr in the saddle of my subcultures for some time now, um, realizing the just inherent limitations included inside of them and not even subtle, they're overt. There are walls and ceilings. And so some of my criticism was not new, but but when my marriage failed, which is also a system and it's an institution, And it is in some places and in some communities just almost idolized too. And when that fell apart, I had to examine those bricks, to use the metaphor, with new eyes and with an experience that was located inside those deteriorating spaces. And it was pretty painful, but ultimately freeing. And shame probably had its play. It had a moment in the story early on, particularly. I mean, I've built a career leading women, and among other things, one pillar of my work has always been marriage and family. So that is what feels like a catastrophic failure. Um, and then it's humiliating because my husband is the one who cheated and left. And so it's such a humiliating experience, and shame definitely comes knocking. Um, but I do know enough to know that shame is an unreliable leader. It has never one time led me to a place of health, to a place of wholeness. Never, not once. And that I know from experience. And so I was able to at least catch it by the tail early enough in the story where I went, I'm not wrong for feeling this. I get to feel whatever I feel. Thanks, therapy. But I am wrong if I let shame be the driver in the car. That that will take me 100 miles down the wrong road.
Right.
Um, so I think shame still is in the car sometimes, but at least relegated to the backseat.
And it takes a certain amount of obviously awareness, therapy, work to even get to that point of realizing that you can get out of that or, not have shame be in the driver's seat. And so did it take a while for you to realize that and shift and start sort of leading your own thoughts in a different way?
For sure. I mean, I hope what readers will see when they read Awake is it is not a shiny story of this happened and then bing bang boom, I was better and I rose from the ashes and now look at me. It's not like that at all. I included that absolutely broken-hearted road of sorrow, of pain, of confusion. Um, my body broke down, my heart broke down. And so, no, it's not overnight and it is slow.
Mm.
And having to parse out the various narratives that were coming to me from it felt like every direction was challenging, where I was trying to peel out, all right, what here do I need to examine that is mine to own? What's my complicity? What was my contribution to this breakdown? Pulling out in a different direction. What systems lied to me and and offered solutions that weren't true or real based on my acquiescence,
Mm.
my subservience. Um, Parsing out what message did I automatically assimilate about my body, my worth. When your husband leaves you for somebody else, all of a sudden, I wanted to apply that to my lack of value. Like, I wasn't enough, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't young enough, I wasn't pretty enough, whatever the thing is. And so, yeah, that took a while to unspool. That was a really clunky road.
Yeah. And you did you include beautifully, I want to say, in the book, almost like snippets of your life in different stages so that it's not just all about
That's right.
the divorce and that system that ultimately was broken. But it's these snippets of other parts of your life and the systems that were at play during those parts of your life. So do you want to lift up one or two examples of systems that you would like listeners to be aware of and maybe relate to their own story?
Yeah, I wrote this book in vignettes. It's not in chapters. Um, the small story, as I mentioned earlier, I wrote in a linear way in pieces, in moments, and in memories. But the big story that I wrapped around it, as you mentioned, included memories and moments from almost my whole life,
Mhm.
where upon reflection, I went, oh, that's where that system got introduced into my 8-year-old brain. That is where that story first found its way to me in 6th grade. Really parsing out exactly how long we have been swimming in these pools and how hard it is to get out. And so there's a lot at work. There's patriarchy, of course, which is the way the world is built. And this just sort of misogynistic lens in which women have always been viewed, perceived, limited. I do quite a bit of work around bodies, the body messages that we started digesting when we were, what, 4? This is what pretty means. This is what pretty looks like. This is what pretty can get you. And then, of course, the reverse is true. If you don't possess this, you are disempowered. And to some degree, some of that is true because that is part of the patriarchy. I, of course, came up through some like religious dogma, which is included in there. What does it look like when you take the patriarchy and you layer on God? Um, that that's a big boulder to push
Yeah.
up the hill.
Yeah.
Um, and and then just gender limitations across the board is something to take a real look at and learning and redefining and in some ways discovering for the first time my own agency in my story, in my work, in my recovery in the second half of my life has been absolutely a revelation for me.
I'm speaking with Jen Hatmaker, author, and uh, she has a new book called Awake. It's a memoir, and we'll be right back. If you've ever found yourself worrying if you'll ever really make it in the thing you're pursuing, waking up at 3 a.m. with that familiar wave of anxiety, feeling drained, like no matter how much you do, it's never enough, stuck leading in your team, second guessing every move, or procrastinating because moving forward just feels too heavy, then I want to personally invite you into something different. This isn't another do more, hustle harder program. The Well Woman Academy is where you'll be deeply heard, truly seen, and fully supported. It's where high achieving women like you, who are out there changing the world, come to release the anxiety, burnout, perfectionism, and self doubt that hold them back. The result? You don't just survive, you get to live your well woman life, a life of joy, ease, and abundance, even when the world around you feels chaotic. This is about rewriting the rules for how we love, lead, and succeed, because it's your time. Visit wellwomanlife.com/academy to learn more. We're back on the Well Woman Show with Jen Hatmaker. And Jen, we're going into a segment called Superpowers for Success. And the first question I want to ask you is, what does success in life mean for you?
I've probably defined that differently every decade I have been alive. So I can't imagine that what I will say right now is something that will be permanent for me, but it's what maybe I think right now. I have said this, and I do mean it. Awake is such a love story to the people in my life, to my family, to my friends, my best friends, my community, my parents and my sibs, my kids. Um, they are they are unquestionably the most successful part of my life.
Mhm.
I don't even mean that in a way like, "Oh, let's give her the answer that's cute." My family, because I am an ambitious person and I have plenty of what would be considered traditional success in the marketplace as an author. Like I experience a great deal of that, whatever that all is. But really and truly, the quality of my relationships, the way in which I'll tell you what, whatever you build into the health of your people, the health of your relationships, I tell women, build that with intention in the good light of day, because whatever you have built is what will show up for you in the pitch black night of your soul.
Mm.
And the way in which my people loved me back to life with, uh, I don't even, I can't, there's not enough words. There's not enough superlatives to discuss their proximity, their loyalty, their kindness, their longevity. It's kind
Mm.
of stunning. And so if everything went away, if I never write another book, if my podcast goes down in flames tomorrow, if it all kind of just goes away, my greatest success is that my relationships are so beautiful and so high quality, and they give me every bit of joy, honestly, that my life contains. And that's what I think right now. So let's see. I'm also flying real high as being a brand new grandma. So I mean, I am awash in endorphins right now.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, a lot, as I mentioned before, a lot of listeners on this show are potentially not in a great place. Some are like traditional success, but a lot of women are in burnout with handling so many different pressures and things in their lives. Was there ever a moment when you sacrificed what's most important to you, these relationships, for this more material success? And how did you pull yourself back to what was important?
Yeah, for sure. Earlier on in my career, when my kids were younger, and then I had caught traction in my work in a way that I did not expect or anticipate, and everything felt fragile. And I remember just thinking, if I don't take these opportunities right now, I don't know if I'll ever get them again. Like I felt like there was a scarcity around the choice to move into my career in a way that took a lot of time and energy or not. I remember thinking it's now or never on this. Like if I don't seize this, if I don't move into this, this will not circle back for me. Of course, I have no idea if that's true or not. I suspect it wasn't, but that did create a season for me where I could not keep up with my life between all the things that I said yes to career wise, which for me at the time included a lot of travel. So, travel, as you can imagine, with 5 kids that live in your house. And again, I don't want to set up a binary as if women cannot be a good mom, a good wife, and have a good career. I don't think that's true at all. And I don't think that only men get to travel with impunity for their work and women get punished for it. That's not my deal. That'll never be my deal. I love my work. I'm a hard worker and I have no shame or regret around any of that. But I I had not figured out how to put a governor on my choices yet. Like, I had not figured out which of these, is a good yes and which of these are a necessary no. It felt
Mm.
muddy to me. It felt murky. It all felt in one big soup pot. I have to say yes to all of this. Hindsight shows me that was really unwise, and I that worked myself into a grave. And, the strain of trying to keep all those plates spinning was it created about 5 years of genuine exhaustion. I mean, genuine exhaustion. At the end of that 5 year, I couldn't remember why I did anything, why I ever tried to do any of it in the first place. And so that was the time when I went, I can't live like this. My family cannot live like this. How can I do this differently? um, and started absolutely changing the way that I did my work.
Yeah. I hear this so much, and I have the same. Yeah, I did the same thing earlier in my career with younger children, but I think a lot of women do this, and
Mhm.
and part of what we do on this show, frankly, with all the guests, is try to pinpoint that moment of like, when can you make that shift and when can you get out of that so that you don't have a life crisis, a burnout, a health crisis, a financial crisis. Like these
Yes.
things come crashing in. And so do you want to share anything about sort of how do you recognize that moment and then make that shift?
I think probably most of us know that moment long before we are willing to admit it and reckon with it. There's this knowing that we have in our bodies, where our bodies, who are team us and only team us, they have no other agenda other than to keep us protected and safe and healthy. That's it. So when our bodies begin sending us signals, when our intuition begins to give us a message, however inconvenient, we should listen.
Yeah.
My body was telling me too much, too fast. I knew it. I knew it. I felt like I was fraying at the edges, but I so wanted it all. I
Mhm.
wanted I wanted to be a great mom. I wanted this exciting career that was happening. I wanted this community that I was loved. I wanted it all. Um, so it was to my own wisdom, to the detriment of my own wisdom, that I ignored it.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see women decide to believe themselves
Mhm.
before they find themselves like me on an airplane, flying to some speaking event where my oldest son, who was a senior at the time of high school, is having his final soccer game for senior night. And I had to send my parents to go be his, like, walk him onto the field for senior
Mhm.
night because I was on a plane. And I happened to be sitting next to a woman. We had one seat in between us, and she had a service dog with her, and that dog would not leave my side. I couldn't quit crying, first of all, so the dog was like, "This person's in clear distress." And that dog laid on my feet, nuzzled my knees, got up on my lap, and she was like, "I gotta tell you, this has never happened." Like, this dog is loyal to me and me only, but she senses your distress, and she is worried about you. And I was like, "That's it. That's it." When the dogs on the airplane are sitting on my lap because I am so dysregulated and so unhappy and so burnt out and so exhausted, I gotta make a change. I don't
Yeah.
think women have to get to that point. If we choose
I
to
don't e
listen to our own wisdom first and go, however inconvenient or scary or uncertain these changes are going to be, I'm going to make them because I know they're right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and we so it's so great. We talk a lot about that on this show, like hearing, there's hearing it, and then there's ignoring it, and then there's hearing it and being able to act on it, and that
Yes.
so it gets complex. When did you know you were really good at what you do?
Hmm. Gosh, that's a great question. This is not a shiny answer because I've got some of those, like, obvious accolades at this point in my career. I've got
External.
tons bestsellers, I've got the awards, I've got a shelf full of trophies or whatever. Um, so I've got those. But I remember one time early, 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 early in my career when nobody had a clue who I was, and I was still mostly operating in my own real life world. So I was practicing my writing in my real life world, in a living room with other people. So I'm like sorting out those earliest muscles and learning how to teach. And I remember one time a woman, actually, I think I included this in the book, to be honest, came in, was a part of this. I'm kinda leading this whole thing. I've written the stuff, everybody's reading it, I'm teaching it, we're doing a thing. And she emails me after that day. That was her first time to ever be around me or whatever. And it was a very, very short email. And she just said, "I really like you. You are funny and smart and powerful." And for some reason, I had compliments before in my life. It's not like that was so extraordinary or like such an over the top scenario, or it wasn't from Michelle Obama. But for some reason, this sharp, interesting woman who looked at me and said, "You are smart, you are funny, and you are powerful."
Mm.
I, I'm still talking about it. I'm 51 years old. She probably wrote that to me when I was 31. That was probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just went, maybe I am. Like, maybe I am. Maybe I'm on the right track. Maybe
Mhm.
I can do this. So you just never know. Everybody
Yeah.
listening, you cannot, there's no such thing as wasting words of encouragement. Spill them on everybody around you. You never know when some generous thing you say to somebody will lodge into their brain and they will write it in a book 20 years later. It matters.
You were able to receive that at that time too, which is important to note, being ready to receive.
Mm.
And can you describe a personal habit, Jen, that contributes to your well-being so you can do everything you do in the world?
Mm. I am really good now, very good at taking time off. I am so good at it when it's inconvenient for everybody who works for me. It does not matter. I travel the world with my best friends, with my partner, with my family. A few years ago, made a new rule in my ecosystem that we are done working on Fridays at noon. The end. We schedule nothing after 12. There's no meetings, there's no interviews, there's nothing. Everybody knock off. Go to happy hour, start your weekend. I don't work on the week. I am now very good at working hard, hard, hard when it's work time and absolutely laying it down when it's not. And so
That's good.
we don't get any of these days back.
That's good. I think that's so hard for so many people to do, and we could do a whole episode just on that, right?
Mhm.
um, what superpower did you discover you had only to realize it was there all the time?
Yeah. Okay, that's a great question. I feel like I am able to say the answer to that in the way that people tell me this a lot. So, when other people observe something about you, the ones who really know you and love you, you can usually clock that as pretty true. Um, so the people in my life, like my best friends, my actual people, tell me all the time that I am like one of the best listeners with empathy that they've ever known.
Mm.
That I like lock in to whoever I'm talking to and what they are telling me. And I care about what they're telling me and I care about their life and I care about their story and I'm interested and I'm curious. And I I didn't know that was I'm not doing that. I'm not doing a thing. I'm not doing a shtick. That's just how I am with a person.
Mm.
And so
That's
turns out that makes a pretty great podcast host. And it helped me be like curious in the world. And that curiosity has really served me and served my work. And so, anyway, that's what people say. I don't know. One time, I will tell you, I know that this is true because I was at the CMAs at Country Music Awards and I was backstage because I'd gone with Kim Paisley. It's a story. And so we are in Brad Paisley, her husband, who was the host of the CMAs that year, in his dressing room. And I am speaking to somebody on his tour team, one of the guys that runs his tour bus. So, like, he's schlepping Brad's stuff everywhere. And I'm talking to him because his wife's a reader of mine. I'm like, tell me more. Tell me about your family. So here we are. We're locked in. Boop, 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 boop. 10 minutes nonstop. The world has ceased to exist around me. I'm talking to the tour guy. And I finally come up for air and I spot Kim across the room and she goes, "Did you enjoy that conversation?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "While you're talking, Justin Timberlake has been in here for 5 minutes, sitting 4 feet away from you, and you never even looked over." I'm like, "What?" So anyway, I'm such a good listener that I do not know when Justin Timberlake is literally arm's length away from me speaking. I can't even hear him. Yeah.
very focused. Awesome. Okay, real quick, what advice would you give your younger self, say 25, 30-year-old Jen?
Oh, I would probably tell her, "You are valuable not because all the stuff you're gonna do. Like, your value is not in what you can produce, what you can create, what you can execute." I'm such a doer. I'm such a doer. I am high capacity, therefore, I can get stuff done and do. And then I've used that as earning power, like
Mhm.
how I can do for everyone else and for the bottom line. And so I would love to have jumped off that like productivity runaway train earlier. I think it would have helped me make better choices.
Yeah, that's a good one. Jen, do you identify as a feminist?
Yeah.
What does that mean for you now?
Yeah. Quick and short and easy answer.
Yeah.
Um, for me, feminism is just rooted in equity and equality. I'm not saying I would like to be a part of the erasure of all men. I am not saying I think men are inherently bad. I have 3 beautiful sons. I that's not my perspective of the world at all. I don't have an I'm not anti. I am just saying I believe in a world where women should have equal billing, equal footing in every strata of society, in leadership, in government, in representation, in entertainment, in the church, in their homes, in marriage. It, it, it should be absolutely even playing field, and it never has been. And so that's the world I would love to help build.
Yeah, and it's such a good point that people do understand what we mean when we say we're feminists, and also about the patriarchy. It's like the patriarchy is also bad for men. So
Terrible for them. And bring
let's all
it
work
to
to yeah, let's all
yeah.
work to dismantle that. Um, okay, last question for you. What are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand?
Oh my gosh. Right now, my nightstand is my daily calendar agenda. That is what my nightstand is when I'm so busy. I book release season is a gauntlet. However, I did just recently read All the Colors of the Dark by Chris
Mhm.
Whitaker. It was stunning, absolute I thought about it for weeks. I also recently read Go as a River, which is a beautiful debut novel. I deal in real life. I'm a nonfiction writer. I have a memoir coming out. I deal in the lives of women. So books for me, fiction. Give me a novel, give me fake people, give me a fake story, give me a good ending. Like, I do not have a read pile this long of self-help stuff. Like,
Mm.
no thanks. That's my daily life. I want a novel set in, like, 18th century Italy. That's what I want.
Oh, love it. Jen, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's it for our show today. Remember, if you need support to live your well woman life, follow us on Instagram at Well Woman Life. And don't forget, you can catch the show on NPR anytime. Just head to npr.org/podcasts and search for The Well Woman Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and leave us a quick review. It really helps others find the show. I always love hearing from you, so drop a comment or message me on socials at Well Woman Life. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.